It was a weekend in December when 22-year-old Favour Dali Oladele, a 400-level student in the Department of Theatre Arts at Lagos State University, Lagos, Nigeria, decided to return to school to prepare for her final year exams. Favour had visited her parents, who lived in Mowe, a town in neighboring Ogun State. She was supposed to return to school on Sunday so that she could attend classes on Monday. However, while at her parents' house, she received a phone call from her boyfriend, whom she had only known for 2 months. Favour was told to come to Ikoyi so that they could spend some time together. Now, Ikoyi is a town in an entirely different state called Osun State, which is over 200 kilometers from her parents' house in Mowe and would take about 4 hours to get there. Favour agreed to meet him. She told her parents that she would be stopping to visit a friend before continuing to her school in Lagos. She promised to call them when she finally returned to school. Favour left for Ikoyi to meet her boyfriend. When she got there, she met him in a hotel in the area. Due to how long the journey was, Favour complained to him that she was tired and that she needed to get some rest. However, her boyfriend told her to follow him to his uncle's place so that he could introduce her to him. Unknown to Favour, this was a well-constructed lie designed to lure her to a very popular church in the area where she would meet a very horrific fate at the hands of a prophet. Favour agreed to go with him, and that was the very last time she would ever be seen alive. It got very late in the evening, and Mr. David Dali Oladele was yet to hear from his daughter. He tried to reach her, but her line was not going through. The family tried calling her again the next day, but they still couldn't reach her. After 2 days, he decided to visit his daughter's school to check on her. When he got there and asked around, he was shocked to find out that no one had seen his daughter in school. Mr. David became worried and was advised to report the case to the police. He returned to his place in Mowe to file a missing person report with the Mowe police station. The police swung into action and began tracking Favour's phone. They found out that Favour's SIM card had been removed and that it had been replaced with a different one. The police were able to track the phone to a location in Ikoyi, the same place Favour had gone to meet her boyfriend. Mr. David accompanied the police to Ikoyi in search of his daughter. When they arrived at the location, they tracked the phone to a church in the area, where they arrested the 42-year-old prophet named Segun Phillips. Mr. Segun Phillips was a prophet in the Cherubim and Seraphim Church, the same church where he was arrested by the police. He was married to 2 wives and also had 2 children, a boy and a girl. Mr. Segun's family were present in the church premises when the police came to make the arrest. At first, Mr. Segun had no idea about why he was arrested, but while on the way to the police station, he started panicking, and out of guilt, he confessed to the police that the man who brought Favour to him had gone to a neighboring town to withdraw money from an ATM, and that the said man was planning to leave Ikoyi for Lagos State that same day. This came as a surprise to the police because the information they had at the time was only on Segun Phillips. They had no idea that there was another person involved. On hearing this, the police returned to the church where they told Mr. David to wait with a policeman in case the suspect returned to the church. The police then drove Mr. Segun to the ATM location in search of the suspect. While Mr. David was waiting in the church premises, he noticed a spot that appeared like something had been buried there. He called one of Segun's wives to ask who was buried there, but he was told that it wasn't a grave, rather it was an old well that was covered recently. Mr. David could feel that something was definitely wrong, but he had no idea how wrong things were going to be for him in the coming hours. While Mr. David waited behind, the police drove Mr. Segun to the ATM stand where the second suspect was said to have gone to make a withdrawal. On getting there, they arrested 23-year-old Awolabi Adeeko and brought him back to the church. When Awolabi arrived at the church, Mr. David asked him where his daughter was. Without any remorse or any form of compassion, Awolabi was said to have replied in a cold voice that Favour was dead. A policeman pointed to a Honda car and told Mr. David that Favor was driven to the church in the said car. They also led him to the same spot he was told was an old well. The police confirmed to him that Favor was buried there. At this point, Mr. David was completely devastated. The two suspects were taken to the station, where they would give chilling details on what led to the tragic death of Favor Dali Oladele. Awolabi was a sociology student at the same Lagos State University. His colleagues had just graduated that year, but he had to stay back and retake the course he carried over. Awolabi met Favor in November 2019 and then called her to come meet him in Ikoyi-Ile on the 8th of December 2019, barely 2 months after they knew each other. Awolabi already had a girlfriend whom Favor had no idea about. He had been looking for a subject to use for his money ritual since April of that year, until eventually met Favor in November. Awolabi was introduced to Prophet Shegun by his aunt. He had known him for years, but during that period, he only met Shegun whenever he needed his dreams to be interpreted. However, things took a darker turn when his mother, Mrs. Bola Adeeko, began experiencing financial issues. Mrs. Bola was said to be the breadwinner of the family ever since her husband lost his job. She was an event center decorator, and Awolabi was her only child. Mrs. Bola used to get a lot of contracts to decorate schools and other event centers, but things started to slow down. The contracts were no longer coming in as they used to. Because of this, she started struggling to support her family. Mrs. Bola had reasons to believe that the challenges she was facing in her business as well as in her family were due to spiritual attacks. She started visiting numerous pastors in search of a solution to her problems, but nothing seemed to work. She was also having dreams and needed them to be interpreted. The struggle went on for a while, and Awolabi claimed he couldn't bear to see his mother struggle any further. He reached out to Prophet Shegun, but this time around, the aim was not to get his dream interpreted. Rather, it was to perform a money ritual that would help his mother gain clients and also make money. Prophet Shegun told him he would need a human being to get the job done. He also charged him the sum of 250,000 naira for the ritual. However, he was given an advance fee of 210,000 naira just to get the process started. Awolabi had already made up his mind to use Favor as the source of whatever would be needed to get the ritual done. He also hid the truth about the kind of ritual to be done from his mother. After arranging everything behind the scenes, he then introduced his mother to Prophet Shegun. Mrs. Bola reached out to the prophet to help interpret her dreams and also find solutions to her spiritual problems. As usual, the prophet interpreted the dream and also gave her a soap to be bathing with. After she showered with the soap, she had another dream the next day. In the dream, she was giving food to people. She called Mr. Shegun once again and told him about her new dream. The prophet interpreted the dream and told her that she was suffering a setback in her life and business because of her late parents, and that she would need to offer a sacrifice to them. Prophet Shegun also told her she would need to cook for people and that she would need to buy a goat and other food items for the sacrifice to be prepared. Mrs. Bola, feeling desperate to solve all her problems, borrowed 200,000 naira from people and gave it to him for the sacrifice. Mr. Shegun bought the goat and food items as planned. She then traveled to join her son in the church in Ikoyi-Ile. Her son, Awolabi, had been staying with the prophet for over 2 weeks before the sacrifice. Together, they cooked and shared food to the people living around the church environment. They also packaged some and gave it to the beggars on the street. Later that evening, Prophet Shegun reached out to her and then told her that he would use the goat's vital organs to prepare a concoction for her. Unknown to Mrs. Bola, what was labeled as a goat's vital organs were actually Favor's head, tongue, breast, and other vital organs. Now, before Shegun reached out to Mrs. Bola that evening, Awolabi had already brought Favor to the church, where he smashed her head with a pistol. Prophet Shegun then opened her up and then took out all the vital organs they needed. These vital organs were then used to prepare a ritual stew, which was given to Mrs. Bola to eat later that night. The following day, Mr. Shegun informed her that he would prepare a spiritual soap for her to bath with. The soap was supposed to help her get good clients for her decoration business. 3 days after the ritual was done, Mrs. Bola left Ikoyi to her place in Lagos. Segun had told her that Awolabi would have to stay behind because he still had some rituals to do for him. A day before Christmas, Mrs. Bola left Lagos to visit her father in Ibadan. While there, she called her son but couldn't reach him. She also called the prophet but couldn't reach him either. She then had to call the mechanic she gave her car to while in Ikoyi. The mechanic told her that the car had been impounded by the police. This happened to be the same car used to drive Favor to the church. Mrs. Bola was surprised and couldn't think of any reason why her car would be impounded. She went to the police station to find out why, and while she was there, she also reported to the police that her son was missing. It was at that point that the police arrested her and then took her to the police station in Mowe, where the 2 other suspects were being held. Prophet Segun told the police that he had been preparing charms for internet fraudsters and that this was his first time carrying out money rituals. He was asked who taught him how to perform the ritual, to which he named one Sunday Obasioni. It happened that Segun had recorded the tutorial on his phone, pending when he would need it. He told the police that it was the content of the recording that he followed to carry out the ritual for Mrs. Bola. Segun was also asked why he agreed to Awolabi's demand, and he told the police that he was broke and needed some money for himself and family. He was then asked why he didn't perform the money ritual for himself, since he was broke and needed money. Segun responded that the man who taught him the ritual warned him never to do it for himself, his family, or anyone close to him, which was also why he agreed to do it for Awolabi. There was no report that the man who taught him the act was ever arrested. Awolabi also told the police that the ritual never worked, as his mother was still facing the same challenges as before. However, he pleaded that they should not prosecute his mother because she knew nothing about the money ritual. In July 2023, a judge in the Osun State High Court sentenced both Prophet Segun and Awolabi to death for the murder of Favor Dali Oladele. Mrs. Bola was also sentenced to 2 years imprisonment for cannibalism. She may not have known the contents of the stew she ate, but as they say, ignorance of the law is not an excuse. This was a really sad and disturbing case. If you've learned something from this story, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more true crime stories. Thank you for watching and stay safe.